What's going on, guys? Kaiger here. Today we're going to talk about Elderwise, the new wind fairy in Legends of Neverland. We're going to talk about her skills, her passive, how to use her, the wind echo, as well as the wind team as a whole, because there's a couple tips and tricks with just wind in general that no one really talks about. So first, let's start with the new echo itself, right? So if we take a look, we have level 3 and level 4. So level 3 was just have the 4 wind fairies out, and while this is good for a brawler class where you want to deal damage but also be semi-tanky, it was missing that oomph, and I think this level 4 really gives it that little bit extra. If we take a look, uh, just at let's start with the stats. Everything Pierce is the same, damage reduction, everything's the same, and they add 16% defense. That tacks on to your brawliness, as well as if you are a class that has anything that scales off of defense. This would be good for Berserker if Berserker was a bit better. This is good for both of the cannon classes. Ideally, the mechanician, because they scale off defense as well as give themselves more percentage defense, allowing you to be very, very tanky. This is also fairly good for both Gladiator, Priest, and even Lancer as well, just to have that extra defense. And looking at the ability itself, it's worded a little weird, so we're going to read it and then I'll explain what's actually going on here. When dealing damage, deals extra damage equal to % of attack to the target and increases your attack and defense by 0.3%, lasting for 8 seconds. So the buff can be stacked up to 5 times, so you'll have 1.5% attack and defense. When character gets a shield equal to 5% max HP. So this is refreshing every 40 seconds. So this is the part that's a little weird, because we have, when you deal damage, you get a stacking up to 5 times to get attack and defense. And then instead of a period, it just keeps going, saying when character gets a shield equal to 5% max HP, refreshing every 40 seconds. So what's happening here is once you get to the 5 stacks, you will get that 5% shield, and it refreshes every 40 seconds. For the same target, all the skills effects trigger only once within 20 seconds. So on the same person, you're only ever going to get 1 stack. So you'll deal extra damage every 20 seconds, as well as get 0.3% more attack and defense. But if you're in a skirmish with multiple enemies, so this is going to be top league. This is also going to be good in PvE content with multiple enemies. The biggest thing for it is going to be something like, what's it called? Shrine. It's going to be very, very good there because there's a bunch of enemies and you're going to be able to stack it up really nice. So how do you, with a lot of servers, we have not gotten Hyacinth, the Hyacinth right there. So a lot of people won't be able to have the echo. So what you can actually do is, you see we have the 4 right there, right? If we go to wind, so if we try to put Lily right here on, it's not going to activate it because it specifically says in the echo, deploy 1 SSR wind fairy in assistance. But what you can do is, let's say we took out Camilla, Lily, and then put Camilla on the bottom, then we have level 4 wind echo. And the reason why I'm going for Lily here is if we go to wind and we look at Lily's stat bonuses, HP block, And if we look at Lindsay, attack, break, attack, break. So this is your choice here. Do you want to be more offensive or more defensive? You would choose from there, and that's the one that you would bring up. I would not suggest bringing them up more than 320. I would never take them to 400. But until Hyacinth or another Wind Fairy comes around, this is a very reasonable way to get that level 4 Wind Echo. And I'm going to be using it once I get more of the new fairy going. So now talk about the fairy herself. So we always look at the basic attack to see if they do something interesting like mistletoe. Nothing going on here. Same with all Gen 4 fairies. We have a passive effect. Skill will be triggered when switching Flower Fairy to Elderwise via class switch. So this will not be effective. You have to go from the other class to the class with Elderwise. Adding Melting Poison to the owner for 6 seconds, and Melting Poison gives crit immunity. This is going to scale. We'll go over the percentages. It has a 15% chance to immobilize the enemy for 2 seconds when dealing damage. So makes you harder to kill and gives you more CC. What classes like that? The Brawly classes. Melting Poison can be added every 30 seconds. So every time you swap, which this works out because when you're going to cast the skill, you're going to do your full combo, go to your other class, do all your stuff for their come back, and you'll be ready to go again. And as we see, as it levels, we get more crit rate. So 24% crit rate immunity is definitely nothing to scoff at, especially as a passive, where others don't really have that going on. Then we look at Snow Cut, and this is a very interesting skill. If all we had was her passive and the level 4 Wind Echo, I'd be happy enough. But her ultimate is actually very, very powerful. Increases the master's debuff mastery by 10% within 6 seconds. So this is going to extend your debuffs by 10%. So your stuns, your knockups, your slows, all the CCs that the brawlers want to do are being extended. And then she has kind of a slow windup. We'll look at that. And then deals good damage in AoE, hits multiple times. And adds hallucination to the target. Hallucination, 30% chance to avoid the enemy getting a buff. Now, this primarily, you're not going to be doing this before they get a chance to priest buff, right? But you will get a chance to... This won't stop something like... This won't stop something like... what's it called? If we go over here to all fairies, go to you, will, what's it called? God bless, because this isn't getting a buff, it's just a trigger. That's kind of a weird thing to think about, but if we will's the good one to look at. Ones that it will stop will be something like a buff. So slaughter, where's that? Lowers their movement speed. That part won't stop. If we take a look, this increase of attack is a buff, and that will stop that. Break free will definitely be stopped, getting that buff of crit rate and crit damage. There are several things that this will stop, as well as there are a couple big ones from those. Fierce attack, things like this. Now, continuing on with the ability, scroll down, and deals an extra 100% damage of the master's attack, triggers every 1 second. So every second for 6 seconds, they will take 100% of your attack. If you're something like Gladiator that turns HP into attack, this is more and more damage. And as we look, it scales more and more. Increased to 2 seconds, increases duration by 2 seconds, and debuff mastery keep going down. So trigger rate increased by 50%. That doesn't make it 80%. 30% plus 50. It's 30% plus 50%. So it'd be 45% chance to not get a buff every time they receive a buff. And then once you have it maxed out, you're going to have the debuff mastery is going to double, so you'll get 20% debuff mastery, and it'll last for 10 seconds. 0.5, no. The effect, so it lasts for 8 seconds. 20% debuff mastery, and the damage of them taking damage is every 0.8 seconds instead of every second, so that adds an extra tick of damage. Now let's check out her in actual combat. Go over here, dummy. Check it out. So we have the buffs up here. We have the wind echo, puppet strings. Now we switch weapons, and then wait. Once we swap weapons again, bam, there we go, melting poison right there. 15% chance to immobilize. So if you have quick attacks, this is great. Especially more AoEs are going to be huge. Now if we summon a dummy, we're going to summon her. Now look, has kind of a slow wind up, but did some really good damage, as well as that hurt around it. And if we settle this, you can see doing pretty good damage. Now what I wanted to talk to you guys about is Dandelion, and that's because a lot of people aren't really using her right. So as everyone knows, if you go to use a fairy's skill and then swap weapons, so let's see, we'll do Lily, but if I swap, Lily disappears. So she's on cooldown, as you see over there, but her skill didn't do anything. Now, there are very, very few that work in this way. If we do Dandelion, and then let her do her thing, and then wait a couple ticks, you can swap and it's still going. Now, you would say, well, what about other fairies that do a similar thing, right? So if we swap to Holy over here, and then go to Leisure, Dummy, summon the dummy, wait for the cooldown. Alright, so hers is similar. Swap and then disappears. But as we'll see, you have to be careful with the timing though, because let's do it here. Disappears. You have to wait about 3 ticks of hers, and then she'll stay doing the damage the entire time. She's ideally best put with something like Balloon Flower, because Balloon will bring them in and then do the pull, but Balloon will go away, but Dandelion will still keep going. And that is important when you're doing some swaps to something like a stun unit, or when you're doing something like Elemental Realm or any kind of PvE content. Dandelion is definitely something you can use to your advantage. The ideal lineup, if we look at the formation, if you're bringing them up, you can put, this is what I'm going to be using. I'm obviously going to bring her up a bit, so she'll be just fine. And on earlier servers, you have to do it like this, as we talked about. We have to have an SSR down here. But for older servers, you could take out Lily for Hyrcanth. Let me know what you guys think about the Wind Echo, Elderwise, and everything in between. Until next time, guys.